Hey guys, I am excited about this training tonight. I always love to do trainings because what I find is in the process, I learn an awful lot. And so if you get an opportunity to train with your team, I'm going to challenge you guys to do it because you will learn a lot. So anyway, when putting this call, I feel like we get paid to tell our story. And if the number one way we earn money is by sharing our story, attracting people, getting into those great conversations, then we better be working on our story and always working on it, making it better, and it needs to be evolving. So I'm excited you're on this call tonight, and I'm going to kind of share what I learned, and then I'm going to tell my story, and then I want us as a team just to take some time. If you don't have time tonight, jump off. But I want to encourage you guys to really take a look at your story and let's practice. Let's make it better. Let's work on it based on what we know. And if you feel like, you know what, I've got a really good story already, then I'm going to challenge you guys to take that basic story and spin it off into several different stories. Because whenever you're talking to people and hearing them speak, you find out what's important to them. You find out what they are most interested in, what makes sense to them, why Juice Plus would be of value to them. And so if we have 2 or 3 stories, we are going to be able to really cater to their needs and what they want. So what I want you to do, so the title of this training is How to Create a Great Story. And so what I want you guys to do is to think about the person, when you think about somebody who really can tell a great story, I want that person, think about who that person is. Okay, sorry, I am taking a minute and I'm going to share my screen with you because I want this to be more of a workshop. So let me get it where I want it. Okay, so before we jump in, let's talk about who comes to mind when I say this person is a great storyteller. For me personally, who comes to mind is my Uncle Casto, who he was actually my great Uncle Casto, and he was a phenomenal storyteller. There was nothing special about going to their house. They were not very old, but to me they seemed very old at the time. Their kids were all grown. They had no toys in the house, and so funny that I would like to go there. But I did. He did have a dog that had 3 legs. So that was kind of fun to mess with that dog and play with that dog because it was an anomaly. But I just remembered every time I would go and see him, I would find myself before we had left sitting, he would sit in this big wingback chair and he'd have a pipe. And every time I smell a pipe, I think of my Uncle Casto. And I remember just kind of sitting on the floor next to his chair. And I would just say, Uncle Casto, what story do you have to tell me this time? And he would always have the most fascinating stories, the funniest jokes, and he would never get in a hurry. He would just always, he would just look at me and he would, slow his verbiage down. He would speed it up. He would kind of get loud and get quiet. His eyes would get big. And I knew that I literally would track with him the entire story, which is kind of unusual and I probably couldn't have been more, I know I wasn't any older than grade school, probably 2nd grade, 3rd grade, for a little kid to sit and listen to his stories. My Uncle Casto knew how to create and tell a great story. So when we think about really wanting to connect with people, really wanting to converse, I started looking on the internet for just a way to train, to say, okay, how good is my story? And do I have the elements that a great story needs? And so first and foremost, and I found a long article, and I pulled some things out of it that I felt like was applicable to us. And so first and foremost, it talked about we've got to create rapport with people. Nobody, if we don't have somehow, some way, we haven't established that relationship, created rapport and a good rapport with somebody, they're not going to listen to a word that we're saying. They're not going to value what's coming out of our mouth because the relationship isn't there. So first and foremost, we have to create rapport with people when we're chatting and want to get into a good conversation. The whole reason that we tell a story is to create and to connect with people. And so think about first and foremost, number one, creating rapport. And how do we create rapport? We're interested in them. We ask questions about them. We ask, what they're doing, what's a value? What in the minute when we meet them, what are they doing when we meet them? So obviously, that's a great place to start, and then begin to ask questions. And you remember, if you're on the call Sunday night, we talked about asking open-ended questions. So start with what, when, where, how, why, so that it's not a yes or no answer and you get them talking. Okay, so the second thing is we have to inject emotion. Let's see, it was a couple weeks ago, if you were on the call with Kim and Stacy when they did Made for More, both of their stories were incredible. And I don't know that I'd really heard either one of their stories fully, but it was because of their emotion and them really being vulnerable with their story that it really drew you in. I'm never going to forget just visualizing Stacy being away at work and her nanny calling her saying something's wrong with her son, that she thought she had fallen with him and she thought something was wrong with his leg, and sure enough, his leg was broken. And if you're on that call, you will never forget Stacy's face, her voice, her tears of, what she was feeling as a mom, that she wasn't there for her son. And I'm telling you what does that do? I'm getting goosebumps right now as I'm telling this story, because what it did is it drew us in as she injected emotion and became vulnerable and shared as she was sharing her story. And I'm sure there were a lot of people that could connect and relate to that. Then third thing we want to make sure when it comes to telling a great story is that we know our story and we know it well. If we don't know what comes next in telling that story, then what's going to happen is we're going to go off on rabbit trails. And that's what we don't want to happen. And so what we're going to do in a little bit is we're going to hammer out some points, some transitional words that will create a great story for us and that we know it. Now, sometimes I'll have people say, oh my gosh, I don't want to tell a story that is rote because I've memorized it. I'm telling you guys, if we've got the storyline down, we can inject our emotions. We can raise our voice, lower our voice, get good eye contact. We can see if people are tracking with us. We can be present in the moment. But if we don't know where we're going, our whole mindset is going to be, oh my gosh, what am I going to say next? And oh my gosh, I got sidetracked. How do I get them back on track? And so we have got to know the narrative of our stories. We got to know those points. Okay, and then lastly, in order to tell a great story, have a great story, create a great story, we have to practice this skill. And you know what? Be real. I hope you heard what I said. Practice your skill. If it's a skill, anybody can learn it. Now, granted, some people may naturally already have that skill from maybe some experience in their life, but it doesn't matter. Like, you can't just say, oh, I can't tell a good story. You can't say that because it is a skill, and a skill is a learned behavior. So if you want to create and become a great storyteller and create a great story and deliver that story well, it's not, oh, I don't have the ability. You can learn how to be a great storyteller. You can learn how to craft a great story. And so, but it does take time. I got to be honest, when I have practiced this talk several times, and it's because I know in my heart, if I want to deliver a great talk, a great story, I have to practice it. And I've got to know what needs to be said. And I have to have a great outline. I have to know where I'm going with it and have just those transitional words or those line items like you're seeing on the screen right now to help move me forward in the training. So even if you're even beyond learning how to tell your story, this is helping you become a good trainer. And so if you want to build and grow a sizable business, you want to become an excellent trainer, excellent at teaching people how to tell their story. So practice makes perfect, you heard as a kid. But I also love what Eric Worre says is that, practice is the mother of all skill. Repetition, he calls it repetition. Repetition is the mother of all skill. So if we want to get skilled in this business, it's repetition. One, us personally telling our story, but secondly, it's practicing it. And whether that be just doing it a lot, Eric Worre talks about in the beginning, we may talk to 10 people and maybe get 2 people who decide they want to join us in this business or decide that they want to get started on Juice Plus. But if we do that consistently every day, we tell our story once or twice a day for a year, we have become a master at it. We have become skilled. I think of the book Outliers. In that book, I think it's 7,000 hours. If you do anything, practice anything for 7,000 hours, you will become an expert. So who wants to become a professional? Who wants to become an expert at telling your story and communicating your story? I think we all want that. And so it's going to take some practice. Okay, so we're going to jump into, so we got to create rapport. We got to know we've got to inject our emotion and our feelings and get people in the moment. And we know we have to practice it. So now let's go to the points and say, okay, what does it take to create a great story? All right, so first and foremost, we can't just jump right into, oh, you need Juice Plus. Everybody needs Juice Plus. Juice Plus is great. People are going to be like, they're going to be off. Their mind's gone already. So what we have to do is we got to tee up our story. And usually when you think about teeing up that story, think about what is the line that takes you into telling your story? So what would be that background? So I'm going to kind of tell you my background story of my story. And so when I think about background and beginning to get into my story, you want a tagline, a statement, a phrase that gets you rolling, that tees up that your story. So I always start my story with, it was 1999, and we had declared that 1999 was the year of health. And then I go into my story talking about every year, like one year it was the year of finances. One year it was the year of our careers. One year it was the year of organization. So every year, my husband and I have gone on a planning retreat. So we take a long weekend. Usually it's Martin Luther King weekend. And we will just go away because it's a long weekend, and we will plan out our year. And so 1999, I remember it. We were up in Rome, Georgia, in a cabin, kind of hidden away for the weekend, and we were doing our annual planning retreat. And so that year we decided it was going to be the year of health. We had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and we decided, you know what, we've got to be healthy for them, and we got to take better care of ourselves. So we started, putting all these goals out there, and we were going to work out, we were going to take vitamins. So what I'm doing is keying up my story and kind of giving a background and laying the framework. So think about, what's your background? What's that free? Key phrase. And I said mine was, it was 1999, and it was the year we had termed this year the year of health. All right, so the next point, then you want to start getting into the events. What took place? So what took place for us is about 9 months in, my husband's having life insurance. He's having blood work done. We were getting some life insurance. And his results come back, and his iron is sky high. It's like literally scary sky high. Like, you got to do something about it. So I remember having this conversation, like, what do you think caused this? You know, what can you do to reverse this? And so literally I remember saying, do you think it was these vitamins we're starting to take? Because we'd never taken vitamins. And I'm like, maybe it's throwing your body out of balance. And so he decided to get off vitamins. And sure enough, like 2 or 3 months later, we have the blood work drawn again, and his iron is back down into normal range. And so what that did, so event 1 was my husband's blood work. Event 2 was, well, actually, it was the next point there is, what did you do about it? What happened was, it sent me into this research mode. And so the action I took was, oh my gosh, if vitamins aren't the answer, you know, we're still working out, but what do we do from a health standpoint? We knew we needed, not that we were bad eaters or junk food eaters, but I knew we were missing something. And so I started really digging into, what do we do? And everything I kept research just kept coming back. Whole food nutrition, whole food nutrition, whole food nutrition. And so I was like, okay, so it's whole food nutrition. Back then, that wasn't even really a term you heard much of. What is whole food nutrition? So the more I learned, the more like, how am I going to get more fruits and vegetables in my family? I've got a husband that travels week in and week out, and I have a 1-year-old and 3-year-old. So anyway, then I get into this story that I, you know, depending on how much time I have, it's a funny story about my husband, how we started juicing. And so I kind of go in and act out this story of my husband. I had a guy, an older gentleman who was like in tip-top shape, you know, told him about juicing. And so we started juicing, and that was a fiasco. And, you know, trying to get my 1-year-old and 3-year-old to drink green juice, and my husband traveling all the time. Although juicing, I always love how Jay Martin says, was a great option, and it would get lots of whole food into your bodies. If you've got someone traveling on the road all the time, and a 1-year-old and 3-year-old, juicing was not the answer for us. And so I love that statement. So here, you guys, is another transitional statement that I make in my story. That when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I was ready to learn. I was ready to figure this out. And so it was when I heard about Juice Plus that it was the juicing was already done for us, and it was backed by science. And I love and appreciate Dr. Du Bois so much, is because my mother-in-law worked for Dr. Du Bois for like 25 years. And so when I got that cassette tape and I saw that he supported it, and I showed it to Scott, Scott was like, if Dr. Du Bois is endorsing Juice Plus, buy it all. And so that was the action that moved us forward. The validation from a doctor, the being at that right point at the right time. I love Wendy Campbell says, you know, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person, nor can you say the right thing to the wrong person. If the timing is right, that person's going to embrace it. They're going to be ready for it. And so I took action. We started taking Juice Plus. And then the consequences. So think about, what were your actions? What were the events? What was the action that you took? And then lastly, what were the consequences of adding Juice Plus to your diet? Well, suddenly what my eyes kind of were open to, we weren't as healthy as what we thought. I took Juice Plus from a preventative standpoint. But what I realized once we started taking Juice Plus, it wasn't immediate. It wasn't like this big red flag being waved. But what I started seeing was those incremental changes in our health over 6 months, over a year. What I saw was my husband, who ate Rolaids like they were going out of style. What I saw was that he wasn't having heartburn anymore. And my daughter, who was 3 in preschool, she wasn't getting every 6 weeks whatever the virus was going around the school. I was like, oh my gosh, when's the last time Ansley was sick? You know, what I realized, it was 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and I'm still busy doing things. I vividly remember about 4 or 5 months in, I was in the basement ironing, and it was 11 o'clock at night, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's not 7 o'clock and I'm on the couch reading a book or watching TV because I'm so tired. And then I started thinking about, oh my gosh, when is the last time I had a migraine? You know, it's all these things that I thought were normal. And again, I love Pam Popper, Dr. Pam Popper, who wants to be normal in a sick society. And I knew right then and there that Juice Plus was exactly what we needed. And so I knew it was a decision that we were going to embrace for the rest of our lives. So, okay, so I kind of weaved in the training into my story, but I want you guys right now, we're going to take a few minutes, and what we're going to do is there is an empty worksheet, and what I want you to do is think about the background. And, you know, kind of write a few words out of what the background is. But above the word background, what I want you to write is the transitional word. What is your tagline, your statement, your transitional question? What is it that will pull you into the background, the beginning stages of your background? The second one is the events. Think about it. What were the events that happened that caused you to either, you can be working on your business story or your product story. So what were the events to cause you to decide, oh my gosh, I need Juice Plus, or oh my gosh, I was meant for more. I want this business. Then you think about, what actions did you take? What was it then what action did you take to move yourself down that journey of getting on Juice Plus, changing your diet? Or what action did you take to say, you know what, this is who I want to be. This is what I want to embrace. This is how I want to create a secondary income stream. So what was the action that moved you forward toward the product or toward the business? And then lastly, think about the consequences. You know, what did you experience on Juice Plus? You know, I mean, you may have a tremendous impact on your health, or you may be like me, like you thought you were fine, but as you look back, nobody can take that many consistently, eat 40 raw fruits and vegetables every day that you didn't experience some very positive things. And so think about what they are, big or small. You know, sometimes big is great for some people, but small is great for other people. So that's the beautiful thing about our stories, is that no matter what if you've got this massive turnaround health story where it's just incremental, what it is proof that no matter if you're healthy or tremendously sick, that Juice Plus plays a role in everybody's life. So what are the consequences? Or if you're working on your business story, what are the consequences of your finances, your desire for life, how it's changed, how you think, how you learn, how you grow, you know, what you're doing with the finances that come in, whatever the consequences are, that's passionate. You know, as you think about writing this stuff, think about what gives you goosebumps. You know, when I think about the consequences of what this business has done for me, I mean, I get goosebumps. I literally have goosebumps right now thinking of what this business has given me. Not only financial, but the ability to give, the ability to impact, the ability to grow, the ability to connect. I mean, the consequences of both the product and the business has been huge. You know, and I go back to, from a business standpoint, did I need Juice Plus financially? I mean, I love the what it gave me and what I have been able to do with the finances that have come in the door because of Juice Plus, but I didn't need it. I wanted it. I wanted it bad, but I didn't need it. My husband we could live on his income. But how it enhanced our life on so many levels is what gets me up in the morning, what gets me excited with what I get to do. And I'm entering a whole nother stage of, now that my children are now adults, and the ability to travel and to I had literally a conversation with my oldest daughter. She wants to learn how to invest, and so not that we're going to give them a ton of money. I'm not going to give my kids money, but I will give them money to help toward investing. They're not allowed to touch it, but I'm going to create an investment account for both of my daughters, and I'm going to teach them how to invest and give them the money to really be able to invest. I mean, that's a gift that the income has allowed, that extra income has allowed us, which is a whole new area, kind of pulls back from my financial planning days, that I get a chance to connect with my daughter and teach her how to do this. And I mean, it's those kind of consequences that are priceless, that this business has afforded us. So, all right, I'm shutting up, and let's dive in and let's really work on our stories. You guys, let's become professional storytellers. I can't wait to hear your stories.